Hello and welcome to the Allotment Diaries podcast. My name is Chay and my co-host is Amy. Whether you're a veteran allotmenteer or someone who's just started, we believe this show appeals to everybody. Hello Amy, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, thanks. I'm not too bad. So what have you been up to?
What have I been up to? We have been changing our plot around.
Oh, exciting. I did actually see some pictures on your personal Instagram account. You have got rid of your raised beds, is that correct?
Yeah. Okay. So we've actually gone backwards. We started that way and now we've gone back to it. So, we're getting it ready for no dig.
How exciting.
I know.
Which brings us lovely to our next guest, Charles Dowding. What's your knowledge about no dig?
My knowledge about no dig was not very extensive. I just knew I had to collect a lot of cardboard and I'd need some compost and a bit of mulch. That's really where I won't lie. I'd watched quite a few videos when I first got my allotment about no dig, and I seriously thought it was complicated.
Just going back to your cardboard collection, when do you start collecting the cardboard? Because I've done exactly the same thing as well.
Yeah, it's got to be, well, the whole summer, probably 6 months or so.
Yeah, same as well. My store shed is completely full of cardboard boxes. I think it's probably a fire risk, my store shed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've collected it all and I am ready to do it. So having Charles on today is such a blessing, because hopefully by the end of the show we'll be able to know what the practical tips are.
Definitely. The plan is that I need to know, when should I be doing it? How do I do it? What are my benefits? And how much is it going to cost me? That's basically what I'm getting out of our conversation with Charles today.
Is there a cost to no dig?
I think there could be if you needed a significant amount of compost.
Okay, all right, yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's an important thing to factor in, is to go, actually, if I do it this way, what's the cost versus what the gains are going to be?
Yeah, no, that's a valid point. Okay, all right. And are you pretty much, as soon as our chat with Charles ends, are you pretty much ready to go with a no dig then?
Yeah, I am.
And are you doing the whole of your allotment plot, or are you just doing partially?
The plan is to do the whole lot, but obviously I've still got bits growing, but I've got one half that's now empty and the other half that's still got veg in it. So I'm going to wait until, I'm going to do it bit by bit. I'm going to do the first half and then bed by bed after that. And I'm going to start removing all of my raised beds.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I am doing probably about 70% of my plots. The 30% has got perennial plants in it. That'll come back next year. So I'll be leaving that well alone. And, I'm actually looking forward to it. Obviously, I think between now and the mad growing season and the sowing season of spring next year, I really want to take the opportunity to improve my soil condition. So I think this might be the game changer for me.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Well, with further ado, are you ready for our chat with Charles?
Definitely.
Brilliant. Let's go. Okay, welcome to our show, Charles. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on our show. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Yeah, it's been a great season here, and I love this time of year because the garden's really full. It's looking beautiful. There's loads of lovely flowers as well. Yeah, it's such a nice time.
Oh, fantastic. We've got a whole host of questions, and most of the questions is going to be surrounding the no dig method, and I think a lot of our listeners are probably quite keen to understand exactly what they need to be doing, or how to get started, or even what it is all about. But firstly, let's try to get to know a little bit about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your background, how you came about into gardening and no dig.
Okay, well, I'm from a farming family. I grew up 6 miles up the road in South Somerset, and my parents were dairy farmers, and I worked on the farm when I was a teenager, driving tractors and things. never really fancied the cow side of things. I'm more into crops than animals. Then I went to university, and I didn't do much. I didn't do any gardening really, in my teens, just a bit of farm work. When I went to university, I got really interested in nutrition, and a friend gave me a book by an Australian philosopher, Peter Singer, called Animal Rights, and that was very persuasive. And coming from an animal farm, I suddenly thought, no, this is not right, and I became vegetarian, not vegan. Very few vegans in those days. Even being vegetarian, then this was 1979. There weren't many of us around, and that led me into then thinking about food and how healthy it may or may not be. Then I got interested in organic growing, and I suddenly realized, God, I'm surrounded by chemicals here on the farm. And, that was such a transformation for me. So by the age of 22, I was starting my first market garden on a field on the farm, waiting for my first season, which was early 1983. I started digging. I actually rotivated some old pasture with the tractor, and that was 1.5 acres. And then I shaped up beds, and at that point I decided, right, I'm going to go no dig, and bought some old hay for mulching, and I was both organic and no dig ever since then, which is nearly 40 years now.
Wow.
Wow.
I love the fact that you went from a geography to a no dig. Was that always your intended goal, or was that just because you?
No, when I went to university, actually, I had no clear intention of what I wanted to do. I just had not found it, and then suddenly, in my last year at university, I had this sort of personal transformation of my beliefs and outlook. And then going back to the farm, that led me to think, well, I could do this here, and I could become a market gardener. And that's where I got excited in life and realised I didn't know I'd still be doing it now, age 63, but I'm really glad I am, actually. It's given me a really long progression of experience in different situations, different soils, because that was stony, Cotswold brash soil where I started. I've done no dig in lots of different conditions and soils, so that helps me to give the understandings that I can now share.
Perfect. So for those that may not have come across it, even they'll be very surprised, as I'd say most of our listeners are gardeners, keen gardeners or allotment holders, what is no dig?
Yeah, but it's really simple, actually. It's leaving soil undisturbed as much as possible. But it's not like a religion, you can dig a hole to plant a tree, for example. I'm quite often asked that on YouTube. So it's as leaving the soil life alone as much as you can by not troubling it, just leaving it there. And then feeding soil organisms with mulches of organic matter on the surface. And for growing vegetables in damp climates like we are, compost works best for that rather than hay or straw or grass or undecomposed materials. And that's it.
Okay. And you mentioned about, I think it was 1983, you came across it. How did you actually come across it? I mean, did you experiment with the various different methods first, or did you just fall into it?
Yeah, I tried different mulches mainly. It felt the right way to go. Nobody else I knew was doing it, but I discovered had joined the Soil Association in 1981. My friends thought that was really funny, like using the Soil Association. And in some of their older journals that I managed to get a hold of, there were articles about no dig going back to the 1940s and early 1950s. And it sounded good to me what they were saying. And then it disappeared. And you could find nothing about it until a friend then gave me a book by this American gardener called Ruth Stout, which you can still get PDFs on the internet. It's called No Work Gardening. So that must have appealed to quite a few people. And her approach, her approach was mulching with hay. But it turned out that she's in Connecticut, which is a dry climate. And anyway, I copied her method. I thought, right, I'll mulch with hay. I bought some old hay, put that on the ground. And then my plantings the following spring were pretty much all eaten by slugs. And I thought, no, this can't be right. Ruth Stout does not mention slugs in her book. And then I realized, well, Connecticut, dry climate, cold winters, hot summers, they don't have slugs. And this is cautionary tale, actually, to anyone listening. Be careful what you believe on the internet, because you sometimes don't know where it's coming from, and it might not be appropriate to your conditions. And all I can say from my experience is that for UK conditions and perhaps all except sandy soils in Kent. If you're in a really dry part of the UK and you've got a very light soil, slugs might not be a problem for most of us.